Brilliant. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Jonathan Turner, same on the lab, one pound, give or take. And yeah, I just wanted to sort of go through some Go Proverbs with you, some which you know, some which you don't, across various elements of the game. So I think, you know, the first ones that are useful to know about are sort of when you're beginning. So I'm looking at yourself here. So you're familiar with the phrase like lose your first 100 games as quickly as possible?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, and there's a sort of a related one, which is, you know, it's only by the 10th time you sort of see the fist coming, and it takes only by the 20th time that you're able to block it. So basically, this is saying, look, you know, you've got to learn from your mistakes. And I think one of the great things about AI Go is it shows that actually it's not about, you know, having natural talent. It's actually about, you know, playing a lot of mistakes and learning from them. You know, playing millions of games and you know, and now it's the most powerful, or you know, AI are the most powerful players on the planet. So I apologise if I start looking at my phone because it's got some reminder notes for me. One of the again, sort of just in terms of learning about the game, was if it's got a name, know it. So basically that's saying if something's important and someone's named it, then it's actually probably worth investigating and learning about it. So are you familiar with the general sort of some of the basic Go terms like cutting, peeping, good, and I'm just this will get cut, I hope. Panuki, have you heard of this?
No.
Okay, so Panuki is sort of relates to shape. So this is a simple Panuki shape. So again, one of the Go Proverbs is that a Panuki is worth 30 points. It's a very powerful shape. In fact, someone was telling me that there's a recent tournament and one of the players gave up 15 stones to make a Panuki and won the game and won the tournament. So it sort of shows that, you know, in the right hands that proverb can work. There's another proverb that says Panuki is worth 1 point. So basically saying, you know, context is everything for this. So again, apologies for looking at my phone here. So there's some useful general proverbs. So if you're not familiar with them, the enemy's key point is your key point. Yeah. Okay. So I find that very helpful when if I'm not completely sure what kind of move to make, put myself in my opponent's position where I want to play. I think that's a good way to think about the game. And also then play on the point of symmetry. So there was a nice little problem in the British Go Journal, the latest one. Spring 2019. So this black group looks pretty sound in that it's got a it's got one eye already. And the question is, how does it live?
Does a 2-1 work?
Show me.
Actually, well, usually in the corner.
No. So black to live.
Oh, black.
Or white to kill. So again, this is where, you know, the other point goes.
I was about to say, because it's a corner, I know these are important, but considering the distance, I would consider at first. I don't know if that one works.
Yeah. So this is good. So the problem with this one is that you know, I believe white can. I've not read through all the scenarios, so we can have a look. But I imagine, you know, white can do this, and no matter where sort of black goes, this side push through. White, you know, black's going to struggle. You know, he's got.
Is it that corner?
Yeah, he's not got a second eye yet. So you're correct. This is the correct move, and then. We should probably think about some continuations. Where do you reckon?
I mean, white to try and kill.
Yeah.
Maybe attaching to that stone, but.
Okay. Yeah. What do we think is a follow up?
3-3.
Here.
Yeah.
That could work. So obviously this is making me eye then. This is what we're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put that Panuki maybe.
or if that we're saying this.
You can force a ko though.
Yeah. So a bit risky.
So if you descend, cut off this. Well, not cut off the stone.
So descend first, yeah?
Yeah. And then take the Atari.
Say that again, sorry?
So you want the 1-4 point, and then take the Atari at a 3-3, and then you can make.
Yeah, so if white's play somewhere else, then that's definite eye. And then
Descend
we
to
say
the 1-2 point.
Carry.
okay, voila.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
There we go. Cool. Alrighty. So point symmetry. And also the opponent's key point is your key point. So another way, if you weren't totally sure, you'd say, well, if it was white, where would I play? And I would play here, because then no matter what black tries to do to block it off, these points are me on either side of it. So they're obviously just very general rules of thumb, but really helpful actually when one's thinking about the game. And then the other one I quite like is when in doubt, Tanuki. Have you heard of Tanuki? Yeah, excellent. So that's an interesting point, that one. So there's a sort of a corollary to that, which is when your house is on fire, don't go fishing. So this is saying, you know, so maybe one way to think about this is in terms of Joseki. So if, you know, the very sort of standard one, white approaches this black stone, there, white attempts to go in the corner, black here, and white swings out to make a base, and then this is considered roughly even. But if you Tanuki in this position, then obviously, you know, this is where the idea of playing urgent point before big point. So white might, for whatever reason, want to be, who knows what the rest of the board looks like. If it did look like this, you know, making a big move over here, but then you're risking putting these stones under attack. So this will be an urgent point because it makes a base for these stones, whereas something over here might be a big point. But keeping with this, in a weak group, and I'll bounce around a lot because a lot of these things are all sort of connected, but if we think about a weak group, how much do you think a weak group is worth?
I think I've heard that it's worth minus 20 points. That's a proverb too, right?
Yeah. Or rule of thumb, absolutely. So, you know, so you've got to have a very big, you know, place to be playing if you're going to create a weak group. And this comes, and then you'll see how this sort of segs into some of the other stuff I want to say later. But is that don't be afraid to give up stones. So there's two sort of things. Don't be afraid to give up stones, and also be willing. You know, if a stone has already played its part, then give it up without regret. So I'll give you an example of what I mean by this. So go. Just set up this on the board. So white's got a corner over here. Black has some stones over here. Okay, so black to play. What options have we got?
14-2 to immediately establish a small base that can't be surrounded very easily.
So that one there, yeah.
If he plays,
So how should white follow it? So let's explore this one.
How white should crawl along above it.
Yeah. So white, black. Can white get away with blocking it here?
it's risky.
No, I don't think so.
Why not?
14-4.
Atari.
Yeah.
White fixes.
Black
into
two groups
yeah.
comes out, yes.
Okay, so white can't block immediately because of this Atari and Chelsea Liberty. So white would go here.
But he can keep extending.
Black can extend. White can go here, and then black can go here. But then obviously white's got some forcing moves then to make this here. So it's a living group. So
yeah.
do we think that's a good result?
Not really.
Not really.
Okay. So what other options have we got?
I mean, he crawled on the second line, so maybe if he forces white to capture that group
Yeah.
by Atari on the other side, or
Sorry,
Hane,
Black to stone.
he cuts that single white stone.
So sorry, which point?
So I was thinking if black, can he play here?
Okay, so
Where?
black plays there. What options has white
Where?
got? Good, we can explore it.
Well, white can't. Well, that's the obvious follow-up. And then
black jump here.
we've got the ground shape as before.
Did make it better for black, though, right?
But how many liberties does the white stones have?
It's 3-2.
And how many do the... Well, no, it's not 3-2. It's
Oh, sorry, employing that one.
it's 3.
Oh, yes.
So white could just place it
Yeah.
like that.
But I think black could sacrifice those stones to get outside influence.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So
Yeah.
let's say okay. So we're saying black. Let's say
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
This is
For argument's sake. And then white captures that. Okay. Do we think that's a good result for black?
It depends on the, I guess, on surrounding stones.
I'm seeing a lot of shaking of heads. You can't see this on the video. Joel's nobly trying to suggest it depends. I'm going to go with the majority on this. This is not such a good result. It's a good idea though. So, what other options have we got here? So the thinking's right. It's just the execution. So, you sort of suggested here.
Yeah.
So
How
what-
about you look on the other side?
Yeah, this side
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, cool. And then follow-up move for white.
Tricky. He can either descend the Sagari or he can connect.
Right, maybe this, yeah. And then black connects here. So white could try this. This could get a bit complicated. Maybe just these lost a stone over here. White can go here. Now we can get that move in here. And now, yeah. You see, this is a bit better because white will be limited to the second line if white gets any sort of territory over here. And then you can see, yes, white's got one more liberty, but white can't break through because if he does, he loses the liberties. And then black will force them up. So how many points does this actually earn white in the end?
Well, he captured 5 stones as 10 points.
And then it's already got the corner, so he gets an additional sort of 10, 11 points, say, and then there's a few more, 5, 6.
Are we
say
discarding the
6.
top left? Or are we saying that's not there?
Yes, so don't worry about that. It kind of doesn't matter too much about that. Let's, for argument's sake, assume this is relatively open. So just considering the position locally. So yeah, there's maybe a bit more fighting here, but this is not interesting basically.
Sure.
In the grand scheme of things. So, 10 extra points, let's say 16, 17 points overall. We said a weak group is worth minus 20 points. In the other one, we saw we were left with a bit of a weak group here, particularly if white starts peeping and doing other things. So now, strong or weak, would we say, for black?
Strong on the outside.
Pretty strong. I'd say 13-2 is a pretty nice forcing move to strengthen yourself further.
Yeah, very possibly. I can't remember whether it was white's move
But
or
then
black's move. I think
Gotta fix your other defects, right? Because at the moment you're relying on the shortage of liberties that white can't.
True, you do, but as far as establishing a base and having strength, I think that.
So this was the last move. So it was white. It was white's move. So yeah. So the question would be: is that so? Black may want to do that.
But it's
be happy
second
with
line.
that because it's second line. So this is what I'm saying. It's not so interesting.
Yeah.
Black could do this and force this, but then actually now this isn't a forcing move for black on the outside.
True.
So it's probably sort of a natural place to sort of pause for this. But as we see, so this is effectively worth 20 points to black in that he's not got a weak group, and white doesn't get as much of that. So this is a better result. So there's this sort of idea of sacrificing peaches for plums. So in this case, you know, it's a peachy position for black as opposed to these sort of plums over here that yes, it's 5 stones, but actually, you know, in the grand scheme of things, that's not so big. And this is the one thing that I think, more than anything, I want to get across beginners. Like, Go is about making territory, not necessarily about capturing stones. So you make most of your points by making territory. So this is why don't, once stones have played their part, don't be afraid to give them up. And likewise, don't necessarily go massively trying to capture opponent's stones. They're sort of two corollaries of the same sort of thing. So those are definitely 2 big bits of advice from my perspective. So, any other questions about this before we move on? Cool, so I'll jump around a little bit more, but some of these other things will sort of crop up. So, remember that. Give me 1 second. Okay, go, yeah. Missing. Right, cool, so. Alright, so relatively simple position here. So it's black's turn. What options has black got in this sort of situation? First thoughts?
The 315 line?
So this one over here?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. So obviously the logic behind here is if you don't play something, white's going to capture those stones, yeah? Okay, so if black does play this, where as white would you play?
At the Atari above.
Yeah, and then black's got a couple of options, so black connects, then white can go here. Is this good shape for white?
Yeah, probably.
It's pretty decent, right? So absolutely, black needs to do that. But is there anything black could do first to avoid white getting better shape?
How about that Atari on top?
Yeah.
Before.
Mhm.
And now he has that Atari in the bottom.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Got any other options?
These are pit.
There is. Yeah. I'd be inclined to play the peat first because once you play that, then the peat looks a little bit less potent. But it's hard to say for sure whether that's like 100% definitely the right order. But I would be inclined to play that because I think it would be a brave person who would sort of allow black to do that, because this is pretty forcing, and then black can take it. So white kind of really needs to respond to that. Assuming white does connect rather than try to resist, then now you can play this, and then this. So white can still play this move as you had before, but now you can see white has to worry about this cut that you didn't have before. So effectively, what this is trying to, so this is the associated proverb here is that when your stones are under attack, or you've still got to live, then play these forcing, or Kakashi, these forcing moves first. And the reason for doing that is you might not have the opportunity to play them later. So there's sort of 2 proverbs in tension, because you don't want to play agi. So if this is already if this is boring, right, and it's not already, let's say black's already nicely alive over here, then there's less urgency for black to play this sort of. It's still a nice move for black, but if white plays this, it's not forcing black necessarily to do. It may not be forcing black to do something if there's something else on the board. Although it's good shape for black. Black probably would want to get in here, but it's less urgent. And certainly the peep. So right, let's say black may not have such an urgency to do that. There might be sort of bigger things around the board and might want to leave these as co-threats. But once you're in this position, you're in danger of losing these options. So that's the time when you want to play them. So it can feel a bit weird sometimes. Like, why are they playing forcing moves in this case, but they're not playing forcing moves in the other case? And I think it's primarily that. So you don't want to lose the option, but whilst the option's still on the board and you're not going to lose it, then you want to leave it there because it can give you an advantage later on. Oh, yeah. So, alrighty. So, ladders. So if we go to, so again, I talked before about this very famous opening, but I actually believe black can actually do something like that, which is a bit strange. Yeah. I think there's a cross cut here, and then there's an Atari, and then black comes out, and then I'd naturally want to do that, but obviously it gives black a lot of thickness. So depending on the ladder, white might. So if the ladder works, so obviously take these off the board as well. So the ladder works for white. Black obviously needs to escape with this. White will go here, and then black goes here, and then white sort of finishes off this sequence by capturing those stones in a ladder. So you see white's got outside influence over to the left of the board, black's got this corner territory. So they say, so one of the idioms is you want to remove the ladder as soon as possible. So my question is, if you feel it's now the time to remove that ladder, how would you get rid of it?
You capture the cutting stone. So you have two ways. You can capture the cutting stone, or I think you can also play like a net. But I think the conservative way is to capture it.
Yeah, this would be a very conservative way of doing it. But I like to draw this parallel here, right? So imagine you've got 3 stones here, and you've got stones like this, and you're worried about this potential push and cut. How would you connect these stones?
Black stones?
Yeah.
Is black or is white?
Oh, for black. So if black doesn't play here, white can push through, black can play here, and then white can Atari this, and it becomes a fight between these stones. So if black wanted to avoid this, how could black avoid it?
I mean, there's the obvious way, but there's plenty non-obvious way.
Well, actually, this is interesting. So yours, yeah. So this is the obvious way for beginners, but this is generally considered a bad shape because you've got an empty triangle, and this is generally considered good. This is a bamboo joint, and it's effectively a connection because if white tries to push, then obviously black can get to a completely solid connection. So it's completely safe. The only very small downside with it is it creates a co-threat. So it means later on white plays this and black will probably almost certainly want to respond rather than get separated into 2 groups. But this is a very small concession that black's making, and that concession is much smaller than the advantage black gets by having more influence out on the side of the board. So great suggestion, and it's such a great suggestion that that's the standard play that people make. So brilliant. So we can consider the same thing here. So I would argue this not as bad as making an empty triangle, but that arguably is doing the same kind of thing, because you could, for example, play over a bit further out rather than taking it. And if black tries to run away, then obviously still gets captured. So this isn't so much about it's kind of like make it into an airport. It's more about creating a sort of a local ladder breaker, basically.
Yeah, I was asking that way, are there no risks of local ladder breakers? Like if black wanted to, is there anything black can do at that point?
So this is an interesting point. Is in theory, white can play sort of anything along this ladder breaking regime. But white might not. But there gets a point where it's like, well, I wouldn't play a ladder breaker for the sake of it over here.
Yeah.
But obviously the risk is that you're playing a bit with one hand behind your back, because black can play a ladder breaker, and then you have to make a decision: do I play locally or do I stop it and give black 2 moves in a row? But we can be a bit bolder. So we've suggested this, and then I think you suggested another move. Do you want to
Yes, I think I heard that AI likes playing something like this. I can't remember the precise.
Yeah.
But
So it will vary on the local situation. So I wouldn't get too het up that there's only one right move. But what I would say is something not too far away of that ilk. As you've sort of suggested here. I think the book sort of suggests, the one thing I was looking at was something like that, one of the other. So either of those you could do. This probably feels a bit better because it's putting more influence over on that side. But you could be bolder, right? But you're opening it up a little bit more. And yes, again, if black wanted to use it as a co-threat, got a few options. You could try and pull it out. The only problem with this is you're effectively giving white at least 2 points directly and then a few more points indirectly. This is why people don't play out ladders, generally speaking. Or alternatively, maybe play on the outside and force that, which we were going to play anyway. But if white played, let's say white had captured those stones, and then white played, right, maybe a bit over-concentrated, but white played over here, black wouldn't want to play over here. So it's like Tawari analysis. So you can see that it's preferable, really, for white to play a bit further out if they can. Okay, so that was kind of, did I want to say anything else on ladders? I'm not sure. Obviously, if you can capture things on the net, that's better. These guys will be familiar with that. You're familiar with nets? Yeah, excellent. Okay, I won't go through nets now. We talked about a little bit about peeps, and maybe for your benefit again, I suspect you'll probably be aware of this, but if say you have very simple, say like this. So actually this is about Hane, yeah, so there's lots of proverbs about Hane, there's death in the Hane at the head of 2 stones, and there's a really interesting one I'll try and show you folks in a minute, but let's say you have this here, black's done this, black's done this, then the proverb says basically you want to cut rather than peep. But if we were going to peep, you've got several options. So the way you can think about peep is look at the cut first, and then what stones connect to it. So all 3 of those stones would be a connect out. So if we took that away, then that or that are all peeps. Arguably some better than others. That feels quite good. Or that one, I would suggest. And then, again, white's got different options.
I think you could even go out to the star point as a peep in that particular situation. To an extent.
Well, all you're doing though is threatening the cut, so you might as well just cut straight off the bat.
True.
Yeah. So this is the point. If you can cut, do so. Generally speaking, as with all proverbs, there will be exceptions, but most of the time that will be the sort of right thing to do. Obviously, if it's a bit different, like it's like this, then it's different, and then maybe something like this, the peep, will give, a bit like we saw before, give white bad shape. And the point then is to not worry about the stone. Whatever happens to the stone afterwards,
treat it lightly.
Treat it lightly, because it's already, because you forced white to play a move, you played the move, so net you've not lost anything. Yeah. So that stone can, white can't lose that stone because it's part of a bigger group he has to keep together. Whereas your stone, yeah, you can just treat it lightly, you can throw it away. And that's the critical thing I think I would want to get across to yourself, particularly, or anyone really, is just get used to not worrying about your stones. Yeah, they're really, yeah, people overemphasise the importance of them. So it's more about how efficiently they've worked, yeah. So at this point, this is working very efficiently. you know, if it can live later on, brilliant, but don't worry about whether it can't, because it's already made white inefficient in the way it's worked. So Hane, so I was talking about Hane, so I've got a nice little example. So you've heard of death in the Hane, there's death in the Hane. So for your benefit, what do I mean by there's death in the Hane? So try and find a nice simple example. I can't find it on my phone. I'll try and remember it anyway. It'll be the. So this is relatively standard sort of thing. You know, what's funny is I don't really spend enough time thinking about all of these. So even I, sort of my initial thought about where I'd want to play, in terms of like Death in the Hane, it would be I kind of want to play here. But actually, there's another Hane on the board here, which is here. So, you know, what options has black got? Best sort of follow-up move? What do we
To
think?
block there.
To block?
Yeah, thing is that's already reduced his base.
Yeah, so now,
Yeah, so yeah.
black plays here, white plays here, and the key point is, you don't want to connect, you want to play in the key point. This is a bulky 5 shape. Yes, black can take, but then white can just, he can't get out. So this is what they mean by there's death in the Hane. What it doesn't, unfortunately the proverb doesn't tell you is which Hane is sort of the correct one. So if you play that, then you don't want to play that, play it in that order, because you get this. So you'd have to sort of play that, and then black can play here, white then goes Atari, black then takes, and then white stops that, but then you see this is a bit, white might still be able to kill it, but it's a lot more difficult than the other situation. So this is why this Hane on the other side is the preferred first move. So that's one thing. And then generally for life and death, when you think about life and death, they say, you know, Hane cut placement, so think about them in that order. So basically reducing from the outside, which is what you often do when you're playing a Hane. Can you cut the stones up, and if not, is there a placement that reduces it? Like we saw over here, it reduces it to one eye. Okay, and then the other one is that 2 Hanes gains of liberty. So I think this is really interesting. So the first time I've heard of this was only a few days ago. So give you an example of what I mean. So you have a black group like this, and then you've got some white stones on the outside. One day I'll learn all these things by heart, but sorry, I've gone too. Cool. So I feel I'm missing a stone. There's a black stone on the outside there. Yeah. There's a couple more black stones here. Right. So so this is a board position. So it's black to play, but before we do, just do a quick analysis here. So how many liberties do the black stones have here? 3. Cool. And the white stones?
It's hard to say.
Oh no, it's easy. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah?
Yeah.
It's not hard to say how many liberties they have. It might be hard to say, you know, what's the status, what's the situation, right? But it's back to play. So what options has got a black got? So maybe the normal, immediate, obvious one will be, right, let's play from the outside, but then white play here, and then, you know, it doesn't really matter what black tries to do. Black now tries to Atari. Okay. Connect up. White can just connect himself. Yeah. Black can push through, and white has to be, I think, even then white can no, white can't, yeah, white can push through, and white can't block, because if black goes here, he can't approach, so he could do this first. I think he'll still win, because actually, you can't do that, because that. White captures. Oh no. So yeah, there you go. Black would win that. Yeah? So black's got to let. White's got to let black push through, but he can still capture all of those stones.
How about black plays a 2-1 first?
Exactly. So one of the problems, say, funny things happen in the at the 2-1 point. So yeah, that's one. So okay. Yeah. Obviously, what black goes here, gets 2 irons. So white will connect, and then what else?
And a 6-1, right?
6-1, yeah. So 2 Hanes gains a liberty. So you might say, well, it's still only got 3 liberties. Well, first of all, white needs to respond here, because if white doesn't, black pushes through and captures these stones, right? So maybe the bamboo joint, or even this, I think, is recommended in the book. And the reason that you might want to play this, so again, is actually though because of the extra pressure it puts on this on the screw. So even though this is the usual shape move, and this would be most people's natural instinct, there's an argument for playing it here because it makes it more difficult. So here, black can play here, and he's got 2 liberties, whereas here he doesn't gain any liberties. That's why white would play that. But then now let's have a look. So so white's defending his stone, black plays here. So yeah, now if white throws in, black can say, alright, I don't care, I'm going to throw in another liberty. And then obviously if white plays that, it's still leaving black with 2 liberties, so black can now fill this in and capture those stones. So I thought that was quite a neat little thing, because my natural instinct, I must admit, in this situation, I might play that, but I wouldn't really think, oh, this actually really gains me anything.
No.
I'd be thinking, normally I'd be thinking this is actually maybe just making white thicker on the outside. So really useful one is 2 Hanes gains a liberty. So certainly one that I'm going to be looking out for in my games.
Does that remain true even if white is more solid? So say if white doesn't have to crawl on the second line, or...
Well, yeah, so if this isn't, so this is a very good point. I would imagine if that was the case, then white can obviously jump in straight away. So then when black does that, white can do that, and then now, sorry, we haven't had that exchange.
Yeah, but that's fine.
Then this would be fine. Yeah, correct.
So do the Hanes have to be centered?
The Hanes have to,
Yeah. Cool. So as I thought that was a very neat little one. Involving Hanes. Are they more involved with Hanes? Respond to an attachment with a Hane. So that comes in. Let's have a look. So this is saying, so again, let's clear some of these stones off. Much harder work taking them off a magnetic board than a regular board. Right, so yeah, so if we've got this sort of situation here, then white's approached, then black has pincered, then white can attach. So I'm going to say too many. Go. Black here, and
Double Hane.
yeah, the Hane here is quite a common response rather than say that. Obviously that allows for the time there. So you'll see that quite often, and then sometimes black will double Hane. I don't profess to know all of the different we've got permutations, etc. But yeah, this seems to be a fairly standard sequence. You get this. So this happens quite often. So when you attach, because you get these sort of things whereby, let's say, if
Sorry, one question, Jonathan. If white has a tiger's mouth after the third hand for black,
So plays 5-2.
can he play Atari?
Here?
No. Can black play Atari?
After the tiger's mouth here,
Yeah.
before like connecting
Possibly.
to spoil his shaping, and then like do whatever he wants.
So what they talk about that. So here we go.
Connect.
That here, and then white's still got to connect. So black's still got to connect, or defend here, perhaps, and then white goes here. So yeah, he spoils it a bit, but white still gets a
decent shape.
reasonable shape, and then white's still got this Atari here. So you might say, well, black will play here, but then this becomes problematic for black later. So you often get this sort of scenario where it's a funny one. So we talked before about if you're under attack and you might lose that opportunity to play the attack, then you should. But there's also sort of another proverb around don't. I've forgotten the name of the proverb. I'm going to see if I can find it. I just realised I don't think I took down the example. But it was around. It's about like leaving too many cutting points behind and ending up in gote. Better to seal that cutting point first. It's a bit like the opposite one of allowing. If you want to play that cutting point before it gets defended, it's like defend that cutting point, and then you'll end in sente rather than gote, because you can push. Your opponent attacks your cutting point, you do it, and then you've got to sort of come back, because once they've defended theirs, then they can sort of push it. I'm trying to find it a little bit later for you. Cool, so that was sort of Hane's. I've got a few other ones that I can go through, but any particular ones that you got? Any proverbs you've heard of but you're not sure about, or any ones that you like that you sort of want to share with the group?
We can't really talk about it too much, but my personal favourite is if you don't like Go, don't play Go.
Well there you go. Yeah. I think that's very, very good. So, what can I say about Co? So, yeah, I would say welcome the Co, because you're going to learn something from it at the end of the day.
I heard that they say take the call when its value is highest. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I notice players escalate calls to really high values, but for me counting call threats is not always straightforward. So I feel a bit anxious about escalating it in case I don't win it.
So there's lots of things around Co. So one is sort of choosing the time to start a Co. So it's a good idea to count your Co threats before you start a Co or get into a Co.
I think that a very useful proverb will call that there's no Co in the opening.
Say that again?
There's no
such thing as a Co. Yeah, there's no Co's in the opening. Yeah. Because effectively any
they'll ignore your Co threats.
Yeah, they'll ignore it essentially. Yeah. Yeah. So the point is, this is right. So this would be the kind of Co threat you could play, right? Yeah. So this is what this is. So if you've got some kind of Co in, the only sort of Co threat you've really got is something like that. But it's such a big loss-making Co threat that you might then take the Co back, but then and black will say, all right, fine, yeah, thank you, get them to move it. And this will be much bigger than any Co you've got, because in the beginning you can't make a big enough Co. Whereas later on, when you've got more stones on the board, the value of the Co is likely to be higher. Because effectively, as the game progresses, it's like a chart. The value starts off at 6-7 points or something like that, and then it sort of escalates up to maybe 20-30 points a move, and then it will sort of come down again. This is what they call the temperature of the game. So effectively, the middle game gets very hot, and then it dies down to the end game where you're starting to play 3-point moves, 2-point moves, 1-point moves, and at the beginning it's quite low. So this is why the Co threats aren't very valuable, because you're generally having to average points as well. Are we wrapping up? Cool. All right. Thank you for your time.